In just 67 seconds, Ford White $2 million in questionable campaign finances. Pam Bondi didn't expect cross-examination. She certainly didn't expect Cash Patel to crumble beside her. Cameras rolled. The committee erupted. Washington watched in real time as two Trump loyalists faced their biggest mistake yet. What did Bondi and Patel think they could hide that only made their lies more obvious? At exactly 2:17 p.m. on March 15, 2024, the House Judiciary Committee chambers fell silent. Mahogany desks stretched under harsh fluorescent lighting. Cameras positioned like sentinels, capturing every nervous twitch, every moment of political theater about to unfold. Pam Bondi entered first, walking in like she already knew the verdict, but her binder nearly fell from her hands. Her navy blazer was perfectly pressed, her blonde hair styled for the cameras, but something in her stride suggested uncertainty. Her flag pin caught the light as she organized her notes with deliberate precision. Dean's reputation for thorough preparation was legendary on Capitol Hill, but today felt different. Today felt personal. The hearing was supposed to address allegations of improper coordination between Bondi's former Florida Attorney General office and Patel's consulting firm during the 2020 election challenges. What started as routine oversight had evolved into something far more explosive when whistleblowers came forward with evidence of a $4.2 million discrepancy in reported campaign expenditures. Bondi took her seat at the witness table, her hands already showing slight tremors. As she arranged her microphone, the clip sat crookedly, a detail that would later become a viral meme across social media. Patel settled beside her, his usually sharp political instincts seemingly dulled by the weight of the moment. Neither suspected that Dean possessed documents they thought had been destroyed months ago. "Ms. Bondi," Dean began, her voice cutting through the chamber's tension like a blade through silk. "Thank you for appearing before this committee today. I want to start with a simple question about your financial disclosures from—" Bondi's practiced smile appeared, the same expression she'd worn through countless press conferences as Florida's Attorney General. "Congresswoman Dean, I'm happy to address any questions about my completely transparent and legal financial arrangements." "Transparent," Dean repeated, letting the word hang in the air for exactly 3 seconds. The pause was deliberate, calculated. Camera zoomed in, capturing the slight confusion that flickered across Bondi's face. "Let's examine that transparency, shall we?" Dean lifted a thick manila folder, the sound of papers shuffling amplified by the committee room's acoustics. "According to your 2020 financial disclosure, you reported receiving $410,000 in consulting fees from various political organizations. Is that correct?" "That sounds accurate, yes," Bondi replied, her confidence still intact, but her voice carrying the first hint of caution. "And Mr. Patel," Dean continued, turning her attention to the man who had served in multiple Trump administration roles, "your firm reported coordinating with Ms. Bondi's efforts, billing approximately $380,000 for strategic advisory services, correct?" Patel nodded, his jaw clenched in what he probably thought looked determined but appeared more like constipation, the viewing audience. "Our work was completely above board, Congresswoman." "Above board," Dean echoed again, her signature pause technique, creating an almost theatrical tension. "That's interesting language, Mr. Patel, because I have here bank records that tell a very different story." The first document Dean produced was a bank statement, projected onto the chamber's large screens for all to see. The numbers were highlighted in yellow, impossible to miss. Bondi's eyes widened as she recognized the account information. Her hands, previously resting confidently on the table, began to fidget with her pen. "This statement shows a transfer of $4.2 million from a dark money organization called Americans for Constitutional Integrity directly into an account controlled by both of your consulting arrangements." "Miss Bondi," Do you see this transfer dated September 20? The room fell silent, except for the mechanical whir of cameras adjusting focus. Bondi stared at the screen, her mouth opening slightly as if she wanted to speak but couldn't find words. Beside her, Patel's face had drained of color, his confident posture collapsing into something resembling a deflated balloon. That account was... Bondi stammered, her voice quivering for the first time since entering the room. Her papers scattered slightly as she fumbled through her binder, searching for something that could explain away what everyone in the room could clearly see. You reported $780,000 in combined consulting fees, Dean continued, her voice gaining momentum like a prosecutor delivering a closing argument. But this single transfer alone is $4.2 million. Where did the additional $3.4 million? Patel attempted to intervene, leaning toward his microphone with the desperation of a man watching his career evaporate in real time. Congresswoman, there may be some accounting discrepancies that can be easily explained. Mr. Patel, Dean interrupted, her tone sharp enough to cut glass. I'm not finished with Ms. Bondi, but since you mentioned accounting discrepancies, let me show you another document. The second projection showed email communications between Bondi and Patel, internal messages that had supposedly been deleted but recovered through digital forensics. The timestamp showed they were sent just 2 days after the $4.2 million transfer. Dean read directly from the email, her voice carrying across the chamber with devastating clarity. Pam to cash, October 1st, 2020. The extra funds need to disappear from official records. Our reported numbers can't show the real amount, or questions will be asked. Can your people handle the bookkeeping adjustments? The gasp from the gallery was audible. Even Republican committee members shifted uncomfortably in their seats, suddenly finding their notepads fascinating. Bondi's face had gone from confident politician to deer in headlights in the span of 67 seconds. Ms. Bondi, Dean pressed, what did you mean by extra funds need to disappear? That email is taken out of context, Bondi replied, but her voice cracked on the word context. Sweat was now visible on her forehead, despite the chamber's air conditioning. Her hands shook as she reached for her water glass, nearly knocking it over. Out of context? Dean's eyebrows raised in theatrical disbelief. Let me provide more context, then. The third document was a whistleblower report filed by a former employee of Patel's consulting firm. The report detailed systematic underreporting of political contributions, money laundering through shell organizations, and coordination with foreign entities that violated campaign finance laws. As Dean read excerpts from the whistleblower report, Patel's composure completely crumbled. His usual political swagger was replaced by the desperate fidgeting of a man who knew his secrets were being exposed to the world. He whispered frantically to Bondi. Their hushed conversation picked up by sensitive committee microphones and broadcast to C-SPAN viewers nationwide. This is character assassination, Patel blurted out, interrupting Dean mid-sentence. These allegations are completely fabricated by political enemies trying to... Mr. Patel, Dean's voice cut through his protests like a scalpel. Are you saying that bank records, your own emails, and sworn testimony from your former employee are all fabricated? The question hung in the air like smoke from explosion. Patel's mouth opened and closed silently, his brain apparently unable to process how to respond to such overwhelming evidence. Beside him, Bondi had gone completely pale, her hands now visibly trembling as she realized the scope of their exposure. Furthermore, Dean continued, producing yet another document. I have here a recording of a phone conversation between Ms. Bondi and representatives of Americans for Constitutional Integrity, discussing how to hide the true source and amount of their funding. The audio quality was crystal clear as it played through the committee room sound system. Bondi's voice was unmistakable. We need this money to look like it came from multiple smaller donors. Can you run it through your network so it appears as legitimate grassroots support? The recording played for exactly 90 seconds, during which Bondi seemed to age several years. Her carefully constructed political persona was disintegrating in real time, broadcast live to millions of viewers who were watching American political theater at its most devastating. When the audio ended, the committee room was silent except for the clicking of cameras and the scratch of reporters' pens. Dean allowed the silence to build, understanding that sometimes the most powerful moments in politics happen in the spaces between words. "Ms. Bondi," Dean finally said, her voice now carrying the weight of undeniable evidence, "that was your voice on the recording, correct?" Bondi's response was barely audible. Yes, but..." "And Mr. Patel, the bank records show you personally authorized the transfers that helped facilitate this money laundering scheme, correct?" Patel's political instincts had completely abandoned him. Instead of deflecting or denying, he simply nodded, apparently too overwhelmed to mount any defense. The meltdown was complete. Within 67 seconds of Dean's first question, two Trump loyalists had gone from confident witnesses to exposed liars, their carefully constructed narrative demolished by irrefutable evidence. The chamber erupted in murmurs, photographers frantically captured the moment, and social media exploded with reactions. Twitter immediately lit up with Bond meltdown and Patel exposed trending within minutes. MSNBC replayed the confrontation for hours. CNN's legal experts discussed potential criminal charges, while Fox News struggled to find ways to defend the indefensible. The aftermath was swift and brutal. Within hours, both Bondi and Patel had resigned from their respective political organizations. Campaign finance attorneys began discussing federal investigations. The $4.2 million at the center of the scandal was frozen by federal authorities pending criminal investigation. But perhaps most damaging was the complete destruction of their political credibility. Dean had not just exposed financial impropriety, she had revealed the casual corruption and arrogance that had led two political operatives to believe they could hide millions of dollars in plain sight. The hearing concluded with Dean delivering what would become her most quoted statement: "Confidence without facts is the fastest path to public humiliation." When political figures believe they are above accountability, democracy itself suffers, but Dean wasn't finished. As Bondi attempted to gather her scattered papers with trembling hands, Dean produced one final document that would cement their complete humiliation. "Ms. Bondi, before you leave, I want to show the committee one more piece of evidence that demonstrates the true scope of this deception." The final projection showed a series of luxury purchases made immediately after the $4.2 million transfer: a $180,000 yacht down payment, a $95,000 renovation of Bondi's Naples home, designer clothing purchases totaling $23,000. Each transaction was time-stamped within days of receiving the mysterious funds. "These purchases," Dean announced, her voice carrying the weight of absolute certainty, "were made with money that American voters believed was going toward legitimate political activities." Instead, Ms. Bondi and Mr. Patel treated campaign contributions like their personal piggy bank. Patel's final attempt at damage control was perhaps the most pathetic moment of the entire hearing. "Congressman Dean," he stammered, his voice barely above a whisper, "those purchases were coincidental timing. We had other sources of income." "Other sources?" Dean's laugh was cold and professional. "Mr. Patel, your tax returns show a total income of $47,000 for 20." The question struck like a lightning bolt. Patel's mouth moved silently, his brain clearly short-circuiting as he realized there was no possible explanation that wouldn't incriminate him further. Beside him, Bondi had completely shut down, staring at the table as if she could make herself disappear through sheer willpower. The gallery behind them had erupted in whispers and gasps. Republican committee members were frantically texting their staff, desperately trying to distance themselves from the unfolding disaster. Democratic members struggled to hide their satisfaction as Dean systematically destroyed two Trump loyalists who had seemingly been untouchable just hours earlier. The American people deserve better, Dean concluded, her final words echoing through the chamber with devastating finality. They deserve public servants who serve the public, not themselves. As Bondi and Patel left the committee room, their faces ashen and their careers in ruins, they walked past reporters shouting questions they would never answer. Bondi stumbled slightly on the courthouse steps, her usual poise completely abandoned. Patel avoided eye contact with cameras, pulling his jacket over his head in a futile attempt to hide from the inevitable viral footage. The investigation that followed would reveal even more extensive corruption, including connections to foreign shell companies and unreported gifts from lobbyists. But the damage was already complete. Dean's surgical precision had not just exposed financial crimes, she had revealed the entitled arrogance of political operatives who believed rules didn't apply to them. The 67 seconds that destroyed two political careers became a case study in how quickly political fortunes can change when confronted with irrefutable evidence. Dean's methodical destruction of their lies demonstrated the power of thorough preparation and the importance of holding public figures accountable for their actions. In the end, Bondi and Patel learned a harsh lesson that many politicians before them had discovered. In the age of digital records and investigative journalism, the truth has a way of surfacing, no matter how deeply it's buried. What happens when overconfidence meets overwhelming evidence? If political lies are exposed on live television, is redemption ever possible? The Bondi-Patel meltdown serves as a reminder that in American politics, transparency isn't optional, it's inevitable. If this story entertained or taught you a lesson about political accountability, like, share, and subscribe for more dramatic political moments that changed Washington forever. What's the boldest political mistake you've witnessed? Share your thoughts in the comments below. This dramatized story is inspired by real events and public figures. All dialogue and incidents are fictionalized for commentary and educational purposes. No defamation intended, only illustration of error and accountability in American politics. Behind her, Kash Patel followed, adjusting his tie repeatedly, his usually confident demeanor replaced by visible anxiety. Both carried thick folders, documents they believed would vindicate them. They had no idea those same papers would become their downfall. Across the chamber, Congresswoman Madeleine Dean sat like a predator spotting weakness. The Pennsylvania Democrat had spent weeks preparing for this moment, her team meticulously reviewing financial records, campaign disclosures, and internal communications.